$60 million goes away.
I'm going to call Derek Ball.
Thank you, sir. Special Advisor to speak on the Child Protection Child Sex Offender Register. New Zealand First will be supporting this bill because we believe that a register is at a bare minimum needed, and we do have a SOP, and as been mentioned today already, that we wish that the register be made publicly available. I have to note, sir, though, my SOP does state that there will be two separate registers, one that will have the entirety of the information that is described in the bill as it is, and that will remain restricted. However, the publicly available register will have the basic information of the offenders within the community. I'll talk more about my SOP in a later call, sir, but first I'd just like to speak on a couple of things that the Minister has said and that a number of the other members have said when they've been speaking. The first is, during the question time and today, the Minister mentioned about the names all having to be on one register, and that an issue of name suppression will be a cause for it to ensure that it's restricted and a reason why it can't be made publicly available. The figures that New Zealand First got for the number of child sex offenders, firstly, sir, is that there are around 400 convictions for child sex offenders every year. And there's around, on average, over the last 10 years, probably around about 250 to 300 that are released from prison every year, and also around 180 that are given community-based sentences every year. And of all of those child sex offenders, there's less than 10% are actually given permanent name suppression. This isn't a huge number or proportion of all of the child sex offenders that are given name suppression. It's only a very small number, sir, and that is no excuse for keeping the register restricted, sir. And there's a couple of questions that fall out of that, is the fact that there are instances now where high-risk child sex offenders that are placed in the community, the surrounding community, the schools, the neighbours are informed of where they are and who they are. That happens now. The only reason why corrections and all of the authorities do that, the one and only reason, is for the community to know in order for them to protect their children. That's it. There is no other reasoning behind why it actually happens now, why there is publicly available information for certain communities with child sex offenders in the communities. And that's a question I'd like the Minister to answer. Why does it happen now, and that communities surrounding these high-risk child sex offenders are informed of their locations, but doesn't want to make the register of all of the child sex offenders public? And for that same reason, the one and only reason, to make or give the parents the ability, the tools to make safe and correct decisions for their children about where they go, who they associate with, where they spend social time, where they go to school, etc. All it is a tool for our parents to make to protect their children, sir. Secondly, sir, about there's a number of people have stood up and talked about research and you know, comparing that. I mean, we've had Labor say that it doesn't work, or registers don't work, or little evidence that it does work. Same from the Greens, and we've had the Minister talk about research as well. And even in the departmental report for the committee, sir, it literally states that there's a wide range of international research against the effectiveness of sex offender registers. Most of the evidence that is available comes from the United States, which is not a jurisdiction that is fully comparable with New Zealand. And the last sentence of that little paragraph there says, there is little evidence available that pertains specifically to child sex offender registers in like jurisdictions. So when any member stands up and talks about the research, that context needs to be put into place. That there is no jurisdiction and no research out there. And members have been talking about international research. There is no international research that is comparable with New Zealand jurisdiction. So any conclusions that any member makes in this House based on the international evidence cannot be applied with any sense of certainty to the jurisdiction of New Zealand, sir. There are a number of things that I would like to go on and further call, sir, including the SOP. But the most important, I think, sir, in regards to this bill is the fact that we had around about 150 submissions to the, Mr. Chair?
Derek Ball.
We had around about 150 submissions to the Select Committee. And it'll be interesting to see if how many of the members actually read them, because the vast majority, 120 or 125, asked for the register to be public, to be made public. It's over 80% of all of the submissions that came in wanted the register to be public. And apparently there are no other parties in this House that are listening to the public. Politicians get accused day in, day out about being out of touch with reality, about out of touch with the public and what the public wants and what the public needs. And here is demonstrable proof that we have the public coming forward with their submissions and asking and pleading for us to have that register be made public. And every single party apart from New Zealand First in this House is ignoring them. We have just recently had an issue with a child sex offender in Lower Hutt. And the Lower Hutt people, all they wanted to know was who that person was and where they were. Not because of vigilantism or because of the mob mentality like the Minister was mentioning and fearmongering. That's not what the purpose of a public register is. The reason why the parents in Lower Hutt wanted to know who that was and where they were was solely to protect their children. Solely to protect their children. That is why they come out and ask for a public register. And I'd also like to note, of those submissions, sir, we had a number of victims of child sex abuse come forward, and every single one of them wanted it to be public. Every single submission from a child sex offender victim wanted the register to be public. And I can say that we had a number of child sex offenders that actually made submissions. And every single one of those child sex offenders did not want to register, did not want it to be public. So I asked the House and I asked the Minister, why are we ignoring the obvious public support for a public register? Why are we ignoring the victims of child sex abuse that have come forward to submit to the Select Committee, who have asked for it to be made public? Why is New Zealand First the only party that is listening to them, sir? That's a question that I'd like the Minister to answer. Sir, I think it's been mentioned also previously that it's not about rehabilitation. Well, it's not a silver bullet. So it's not about solving the issue of child sex abuse. It's about concentrating on the reoffending, those that we know have offended, those that we know have a likelihood to reoffend, and that's what this tool is. It's a monitoring tool. It's not about punishment. It's not about extending the sentence that they've had. It's about the public or the authorities with this current legislation, how it's written, the authorities to know where the sex offenders are, who they are, and be able to monitor them. And that's why New Zealand First wants to extend that for the public to be able to do the same thing, sir. And we believe, sir, that actually there's a lot of ideology out there about the rights to privacy of the offender and the perpetrator. And New Zealand First says that and believes that the children's rights to protection and the parents' rights and the community's rights to protect their children come before any of the rights of the offender. That's right. Any rights of the offender. And if this House and the Minister takes the step to put the children at the forefront of this conversation, at the centre of this conversation, then there is no doubt that the Minister must agree with making the register public. New Zealand First will be supporting this bill, sir. I'll speak a little later on about the SOP and our SOP in detail. We would like this, we will be supporting this through this committee stage, sir. We'd like to be made public, and I'd like the Minister to answer those questions. Thank you.
I call Alfred Naro.